Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, it is my honor to sit here before you today, and I wish you Godspeed in your deliberations and conclusions. I would like to acknowledge the men and women who are in our military and who are defending our nation as we sit here to discuss the many prices that we pay for the Homeland Security. And I'd also like to acknowledge the families who have given more than anyone had the right to ask, and whose prudence and determination caused this commission to be in place and caused our meeting here today. In a haphazard joining of time and place, I found myself at Ground Zero early on the morning of September 11th. And as the Bible says, I try to remember, write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it. This to me has always meant that we need to say what is in our mind, our revelations within ourselves, in our hearts, in our minds, and it's only from that that we can learn. And if we're politic or circumspect or our motivations are not clear, I don't think that we can learn very much. And in the emergency professions, to learn is to save future lives. From the second hour after the attack and for 57 consecutive days at the World Trade Center, I spoke to hundreds of people who worked at various levels of responsibility, from the top commanders of both the fire and the police departments to the men and women sifting through the pile. And in all of that time, and to this day, there is a singular question that gnaws at my understanding, and that is, why is there such a disparity in the loss of life among the first responders? Something went wrong, but because of the great respect for the maelstrom of sadness that entered all of our lives during that period, it wasn't a question that one would ask. And the slightest suggestion of criticism would be unacceptable and wrong amidst such historic heroism. Since that terrible day, though, because of an evolving accumulation of facts, the management of the emergency can now be fairly questioned. I have reluctantly come to the belief that the crisis at the World Trade Center was worsened by the uncooperative connection that exists between the police and the fire departments. I believe that the age-old antagonism between these services have become institutionalized. And though its beginnings are murky, somewhat like the beginning of day as it evolves from night, the rift was created by the establishment of two special rescue organizations, one in each of the two largest emergency service teams in the world. And it intensified in 1988 when a helicopter went into the East River, killing one and injuring four, and the firefighters were ordered to sit on the side in their scuba gear. And people were outraged, and Mayor Koch ordered an investigation by Deputy Mayor Stanley Brezhnev, which supported the firefighters, and then that recommendation was ignored. And then in 1990, spurred on by Mayor Dinkins, protocols were signed by both departments. The protocol would work, Mayor Dinkins promised, because it involved persons of goodwill. But they were quickly forgotten. And another agreement was made by Mayor Giuliani, who spoke of it earlier, in 1997. And it was ignored for the most part. Any analysis of 9/11 will show that the fire and police departments, both charged with protecting life and property in the city, could hardly be said to be working together, though there was overwhelming individual greatness in both departments. The rescuers recognized the dangers, yet they did what was asked of them. We know that a firefighter left a prognosticating note for his family in a firehouse, and that police officers helped victims out of the buildings and then re-entered only to lose their lives. A policeman friend of mine was suited and roped to be lowered from a helicopter to the roof of the South Tower, only to be redirected at the last moment. And another friend responded to his final job from the fire department medical office where he had been placed on medical leave. What unique courage and dedication these stories convey. There's much evidence of inadequate communication between the fire and police. You know of the McKenzie report. You know about the police helicopter and those reports. I won't go into them. The fire chiefs were in a crisis management, but they had not yet internalized the finality of the moment. And perhaps if they had heard the police department's robust commands, their own commands might have been as robust as the police department's. Notwithstanding that this was a successful police communication that resulted in the saving of many lives, the fire chiefs did not hear this order. Their concern continued to be those of the firefighters and civilians still in the building. They had made many rescues, people stuck in elevators, people in wheelchairs, people injured, 25,000 people in all, one of the largest rescues in history. The fire chiefs in the North Tower gave their own special order to evacuate, though thrown down and covered with debris when the South Tower fell. They did not know what hit them. Chief Joseph Pfeiffer, in complete darkness and stunned, not knowing if another plane had hit or if there was another bomb or if part of one of the buildings fell, gave the order, all units in Tower 1 evacuate the building. Just how many firefighters heard that order and escaped in the 29 minutes from Chief Pfeiffer's command is not certain. But we do know that one police officer, at least 5 Port Authority police officers, and 121 firefighters were killed when the second tower collapsed. Others were killed on the street, including 4 emergency service unit officers and a number of other firefighters who had just successfully evacuated the building. In all, 15 firefighters for every New York City police officer was killed, and among lost police officers there were none of officer rank, while there were 23 fire chiefs killed. This suggests one thing to me, that there were successful communications within the police department. But the communications within ranks of firefighters cannot be proven to be successful, as evidenced by the number killed in the Tower 1. It cannot be said that our first responders were prepared at Ground Zero. Fire and police were not having regular drills before the emergency, and there was no meaningful protocol in place. Because information was not shared and the services did not interact in a predetermined and agreed-to manner, the firefighters and the police were not given the opportunity to work in a viable emergency system. The Department of Homeland Security has mandated the National Incident Management System. You know about that and its relevance to our future. I won't go into it.
You have to sum up now, Mr. Smith. Your time is up.
The city has just accomplished this new protocol, but it's not the answer. Fire, rescue, and police have great and heroic histories, but it is time to consider that in the population's interest that we join these two emergency services in a third emergency service, because no other city in the nation has a fire and a police department that does redundant and competitive work. Everything I witnessed on September 11th and the successive days of the World Trade Center has left me within this greatest sadness we have ever known. A more grateful and a more inspired person. I was able to spend much time next to men and women whose actions each day manifested all that is right about America, and some of them are in this room today. My testimony will speak for itself, and I hope that you will read it in its completion. Thank you.